President Snow was a really intriguing character to me in the Hunger Games. Definitely a super compelling villain, very smart, very complex, and even funny at times. So when I heard that there was going to be a prequel from his perspective, I was really interested in reading it. I do love a villain origin story, even though they always rip my heart out, and this was no exception. So I'm so happy that I did read it, and I highly recommend the book. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is fantastic, and of course the trailer for the movie just came out, so I'm really excited. It looks really good. Like, the scenes look like they were pulled straight out of the pages, so that's amazing. And so far they seem to be focusing on all the important storylines and themes. There's a lot to this trailer. Things go by really quickly in a flash, so I want to break it down frame by frame so that I can point out things that maybe you didn't notice, or maybe you did notice and you're also equally really excited about them, so we can yell about it together in the comments. There won't be any plotline spoilers until later in the video, and even then there won't be anything major. It will just be to give a little more context about certain locations or characters or just the scene overall, but nothing that really spoils the fate of anybody or anything like that. But even then, I will warn you before those spoilers start, just in case you don't want any, because this video is for everyone, fans of the book who are so excited that maybe they missed out on some details, and people who didn't read it but want to know a little bit more about the story in depth before you actually watch the movie. It's a really good trailer. There's definitely a lot to look at here. Oh, before we start, I also want to say that I'm really pleased with the casting of this movie. So far, from all the performances that I've seen in the trailer, they are all really good. I'm really impressed. And yeah, it's a really stacked cast, so that's great. I really do enjoy these characters a lot, and honestly, I liked parts of this book even better than I liked certain parts of the Hunger Games trilogy. Yeah, let's take a look at this trailer, my songbirds and my snakes. Let me get this so that I can look at the stills. Sorry guys, this is all such a mess. I'm a mess, the place I'm in is a mess, the lighting is a mess, because this was a last minute, totally spur of the moment video. Not how I planned to debut this channel. I wanted to do a super smart, well-researched, long video essay on some character that I stan, and then I ended up with a frantic, last minute improvised trailer breakdown while I'm sick, by the way, so this is not even my normal voice, and I apologize if I'm sniffling throughout the video or something. But I hope that you can still enjoy it, because this is life. Sometimes these things happen and we go with it. The trailer opens with a shot of what I can only assume is the Academy, which is this really prestigious but also equally important free school that Coriolanus attends. Inside in Heavensby Hall is where they're being told about their new assignment. Mentoring tributes in the Hunger Games. This is the first time they're doing that. It's new. It's gonna be a thing. You can see the TV monitors up there, and it's airing the reaping ceremony so that they can all see who they're getting. Ooh, when we see Dean Highbottom, he's the one credited with the creation of the Hunger Games. He's drinking something, and this is important. The Dean is often under the influence of the drug morphine, which you might remember the pair of Catching Fire tributes also using. He's using it here, even just as he's about to address the student body, because he really is addicted. And I mean, if you're at all responsible for creating these murderous games, it makes sense that you would want to sort of dull your thoughts and your emotions, right? Dean Highbottom is high indeed. I don't know if he's a bottom though. We also see a little bit of the school uniforms of the students, which, by the way, I tried to dress kind of like that a little bit, with the blue shirt and then the red coats over it. You see it better with this leaked photo from when they were filming, and honestly, that's the only visual criticism that I have so far that I don't love. I don't love especially the skirt over the pants. It's kind of 2000s red carpet, but I don't know. I don't love it, but I do love the colors, and I just thought it would be fun to kind of embody that for the video today. I don't have a rainbow dress, so it had to be the Academy uniform. Also, I switched locations because I was literally in the bathroom, and I liked the light there. That's why I was there, but it was really uncomfortable. So anyways, moving on. Next, we have our first look at Coriolanus Snow, our protagonist. He looks really good. I just know that people are gonna be thirsting for him. But you know what? I'm not judging you. But anyway, what I want to point out here is Coriolanus' shirt. The shirt that he's wearing, it belonged to his father, and Tigris was working really hard to make it look acceptable so that he could wear it at the reaping, because they were supposed to dress up. The Snow family isn't really rich at the moment, but they really want to keep up appearances, and Coriolanus is concerned about not having anything to wear. Tigris really comes through for him, transforming his dad's old shirt into something really great and modern and fashionable. She ends up working with fashion, so she's really good at it. The rose is there on his lapel, of course, which is a Snow trademark from the Hunger Games. And it already had the added benefit of masking a little bit of the smell, because there was a smell of food in the shirt, because Tigris had to like dunk it into food, into like a vat of food or something like that, in order to be able to change the color of it. It was a whole thing. I don't know if they're probably not going to focus too much on how the shirt was made, but I thought it was a really interesting detail. Oh, and that is Clemenzia sitting next to him, and damn, she's really serving a bad bitch vibe with the hair and the makeup. Then we have several shots of Lucy Gray being raped and bowing to the crowd, which is really important because she is an entertainer. She can play to the camera. That's really one of her strengths. I know people are comparing the bow to Katniss's bow, and obviously that's kind of a callback, but she and Katniss are very different. But I want to call attention to this wide shot, because so far it's the only look we have into the ruffled rainbow dress. From what I can tell, I guess the skirt is the rainbow. It's not exactly how I pictured it, but I think it probably works for a movie. And it still makes her stand out, which is the point of the dress. There's also a camera and a cameraman at the very corner, because they're broadcasting the reaping, reminding us that the Hunger Games are meant to be a spectacle. Then we have a train that is taking out the tributes to the Capitol. Honestly, I thought that the train would be in worse condition from the description in the book. It's supposed to be like a farm train where they would usually transport livestock. This ride is important because Coriolanus was on the platform waiting to meet Lucy Gray when she arrived, as we see in the next frame. And this is, of course, a very big move on his part. For several reasons that would be too spoilery to get in here, but let's just say that it made him stand out as a mentor. It's in this part of the trailer where we also have a very important line from Dean Highbottom. He tells the students, but it also tells us, the audience, that their assignment is really not to help anybody survive or win the Hunger Games. It's to make it into a spectacle. That's literally the word that they use. The job is to make sure that people are tuning into the Hunger Games to watch, because people were not really into watching it at that point, but the Capitol obviously needs everybody to watch, so now they want it to be a much bigger spectacle than what it is at this point. And of course, from what we know of the Hunger Games, it eventually does become a huge spectacle. Actually, a lot of what we see Coriolanus suggest in this book ends up making into the games we know from the trilogy, and all of that really starts right here with this assignment to turn the games and the tributes into a spectacle that everybody would want to watch, rather than something to help the kids survive. And what does my mentor do besides bring me roses? I do my best to take care of you. Those lines are also really important, and that's the next scene. Of course, the roses being the trademark of President Snow from the trilogy. We see why he likes them so much. It's not even him, it's his grandmother at first. This scene really starts to set up the relationship that they're gonna have between the two. It's line by line from the book, and I love it so much. The dynamic between them is one of my favorite things in the book, and so far it was recreated pretty well here. It shows a sort of like intrigued and playful vibe, but also really guarded vibe between them, and I think it's 10 out of 10. Then, we see them holding hands as they walk into the arena. Then they quickly drop it before the cameras see them and catch them. This is definitely hinting at a romance between them. I just know people will come out of this movie shipping the two. That's okay, there are moments of cuteness and a really interesting dynamic between them. Oh, and then it's her powerful line, start by thinking I can actually win. Because up until that point, Coriolanus is doing his assignment. He's trying to make her into a spectacle. And maybe he's growing to care for her too, and to sort of want to see her well-being, but he doesn't think of her as a viable winner. So this call out marks another very important moment in their dynamic, because from here on out things are going to shift a little, and they will start working together to try and make her into a victor, hopefully. As the games begin, so does the spectacle. I actually love the shot of all the 24 Capitol student mentors watching as the tributes are about to begin their battle. It's so twisted, but it's so epic. I want to direct your attention to the empty chairs. This is significant. In time, they also start removing the chairs of mentors whose tributes have already died in the arena. So it's like the world's worst game of musical chairs ever. I love that Lucky, the TV presenter, looks almost identical to Caesar from the Hunger Games. I actually almost thought it was the same actor for a moment there, which works really well, of course, because Lucky is Caesar's ancestor. The tradition of having a game host starts here, as he states, and he's the first one so far. It's really our biggest trailer hint about how this story here in this book shapes what we come to know in the Hunger Games trilogy. We see how and why the new changes are implemented, and I really love that, and I hope that they're all included in the movie. And I think this location is the Citadel, where Dr. Gall works and has her scientific experiments. Oh, and I want to talk about this shot of Lucy Gray in the amphitheater because the girl is in the Hunger Games in heels. Her commitment to being a performer is something else. Her skirt doesn't seem rainbow enough to me, to be honest, but we'll see. I also think it's fantastic that we can see how the amphitheater arena is destroyed. The ceiling is gone and there's that broken mess in the center. The arena that they have in the games is very low tech compared to what we're used to because it's so much earlier in time in history. The war hadn't been over for that long, and although the trailer said nothing about it, it's actually a fairly big topic in the book. It's something that's always lurking in the background because the capital hadn't totally fully rebuilt yet. And they held the games, so all 10 years so far in this torn apart amphitheater. It used to be just like a real theater where people would go to watch plays. Coriolanus would go as a kid, watch plays. It got destroyed in the war, and now it's just being used as this small, very small compared to what we know, arena for the Hunger Games. Oh god, Coriolanus whispering this frightened run to Lucy Gray, even though she can't hear him at all because she's in the arena. He's just watching on TV, but he's still like overcome, and he just says that to her when the games officially start. Like, that broke me because you can hear the emotion there. It's not just for her, he has his own stakes in it, but it broke me. Also, this gives us a great glimpse at the famous blonde curls he's so fond of. I'd also like to point out how not really into the games he is here and for the whole trailer. He's not actively campaigning against them, but he doesn't really seem to vibe with them either. And that's part of why the story was so interesting to me. He was a complicated and self-serving boy, but he was not evil or devoid of empathy. And he was not like super pro Hunger Games. So the journey to see how he becomes President Snow is wild. Psychologically speaking, it's so fascinating to understand how he thinks, how he feels, and how he works. Then we see more of the arena and the tributes at the very start of the game. There are weapons left there for them, but there's no cornucopia. Then we have Dr. Gall talking to Coriolanus. She is the worst possible influence on him. The speech she's giving here is very important. It's all about how humans are inherently violent and will always stoop to brutality. Just listen to her words and think of that from the perspective of a child that grew up traumatized from a war. And maybe that's a hint of why she's such a horrible influence. I'll be honest, I don't remember if the book describes her as having like two different colored eyes and one of the irises being kind of animal-like. I'm not sure if that's feline-like or if that's reptile-like. I'm guessing a snake is probably a safe bet. But it makes sense that she does have that because she does experiment a lot with fusing animals with humans. It's not a major plot point, it's just a detail, but I'm pretty sure she was responsible for that future trend of capital citizens having like talons or feathers or whatever that we see in the Hunger Games, because she was spearheading those experiments here in this time. While she's talking, we get a very quick look at these drone-looking things flying by, and I'm assuming they're the parachutes. The idea of sending gifts to the tributes started here, so it's the first time the parachutes are being implemented. It's actually pretty cool to see how that idea came about and how it works for the first time. Oh, now this is very interesting to me. There are these tunnels that were torn open in the arena, and here's Lucy Gray running through them with her ally, the boy from District 12. What's interesting is that we don't see inside the tunnels in the book. There are no cameras set up there, and we're only watching from Coriolanus' point of view. Like, whatever he sees on camera is what we see through him. So every time that Lucy Gray is hiding in there, she's invisible to him and to us. We don't know what she's up to, and we can only like nervously wait for her to show that she's still alive, hopefully. It looks like the movie's gonna do it a little bit differently. It looks like they decided they're gonna follow her there and show us her perspective. It's a different kind of tension from what the book builds up, because in the book it's this very sort of blind, helpless tension that Coriolanus and us are feeling. But I'm sure that here it will be tense in a more like action-filled way, because we're gonna be seeing the actual fight and the chases and everything. This is a minor spoiler, I suppose, but this is Reaper, a pretty strong tribute who had the habit of wrapping all the dead bodies in these Pan Am flags to sort of show them respect, or at least that's how I interpreted it. Then the tribute with the cute little hat is, I believe, Jessup, the District 12 boy. He's going through something here. Okay, so from here on out, we have scenes from the third part of the book. The book is divided in 3 sections, and these are going to be from the last section, including some scenes that are from the very end. I still won't spoil like how it ends or what happens to each of the characters, but it will get a bit more spoilery from now on. So if you would rather avoid that, then thanks for watching so far, and please leave a like if you can. Continuing, for those that do want to get a little more in depth here. Okay, so this is made from later. I just found another still that isn't actually in the trailer, but I wanted to talk about it really quickly too, because you can see that there's like some kind of fence around them and there are people on the other side, and that's because they're in a zoo where he accidentally kind of falls in with the tributes in the zoo, because that's where they're being kept like prior to the start of the games. Back then in the 10th Hunger Games, they treated the tributes even worse than they do in the future, and I'm pretty sure that it's probably Coriolanus' influence that gets them treated better later on, because this is something that you can see that bothers him. Like the treatment of the tributes, he's like, they're already gonna die anyways, why do you have to like mistreat them and treat them like animals and keep them hungry? So I'm sure that in the future, when they're all in luxury, he had something to do with it. Where are we? Okay, so we see District 12 here. Yes, we're going there. It's a bit grimy, it's full of smoke with the peacekeepers patrolling, kind of what you would expect from District 12. Oh, this scene is from very, very close to the end. Coriolanus and Lucy Gray are on this important walk through the woods together, discussing whether people are inherently good and capable of freedom or inherently bad and in need of governing. It's an incredibly important conversation, and it ties back to what Coriolanus and Dr. Gall were discussing before. It even ties into why he becomes President Snow in the future. Also, his curls are gone! As a peacekeeper, he had to get rid of them. He had to get a buzz cut. This isn't a spoiler because we're about to see him in uniform soon. But before that, we have a trio of scenes that, as far as I can tell, they all go together. It's Coriolanus being escorted into the arena. Yes, the Hunger Games arena. When he looks back at the camera, you can tell that's where he is because of that pile of debris in the center is the same. So I do believe that the lone figure inside the arena at night in the next scene is him too. I will leave you to find out why he's there when you read the book or watch the movie, but it's so interesting. There's a battered guy taken by the peacekeepers. Oh my god, he looks directly at Coriolanus, who is also sporting a peacekeeper uniform here. Like I said, we would see that. Coriolanus seems unsettled to see this injured guy being taken away, being, I guess, arrested. I believe this is Spruce's arrest. Spruce is a District 12 rebel, and he knows a lot. Oh, poor buzzcut peacekeeper Corio is having a bit of a breakdown here. I think he's going through a box of things, and I do need to keep this vague, but this is his reaction after something that happens at the hanging tree. I think that's what the scene is. And yes, it is that hanging tree from Katniss' song. We're gonna see a little bit about this song. Sorry, I am sick like I mentioned at the beginning. Speaking of Katniss, then we see Coriolanus shooting at the Mockingjay birds and kind of losing it. He never liked them. He never liked those birds. And when he's given an assignment to eliminate them, he goes in on it. He dislikes them because they're unnatural. They're a symbol of chaos, something uncontrolled that was never meant to exist but found a way to exist anyways. And chaos is something that Coriolanus really dislikes. It even harkens back to his PTSD from the war. So, you know, his desire to control chaos is kind of a recurring theme in the book, and it is one of the main reasons for his iron grip later on as president. Do you know, he hates these birds so much that I can only imagine, like, in the future when he's crowning Katniss and looking at her pin and just thinking like, girl, why did you choose this ugly ass bird to be your pin? Like, with all the animals in the world, why this ugly like freak of nature bird, Katniss? Honestly, your taste is lacking. That's what I think was probably going through his head. Then we go back to a scene that is pre-Peacekeeper Coriolanus with Dean Highbottom saying that iconic line, "That's the sound of snow falling." The Dean is not a fan of Coriolanus because he had beef with his father, which is not entirely fair. And you know, I'm actually surprised that the trailer didn't include any of the many times of somebody saying "snow lands on top," because that is the family motto, and that's said like a million times in the book. I'm sure it's gonna be in the movie, but I thought it was interesting that it's not in the trailer at all. Aw, and then we get some much needed lighthearted moments with Lucy Gray and Coriolanus and a few other friends spending a fun day at the lake together in District 12. We can guess this is District 12 because the capital doesn't have nature like that. It's all futuristic and high-tech. And District 12 has those woods around it, which are sealed off in the trilogy, but not here. You can go freely at this time. So yeah, there's Corio at the lake, there's him being hugged by Lucy Gray in a seemingly romantic manner, and he even does a cannonball, like he's finally enjoying himself. It's sweet, it's cute, and it rips my heart out because as much as you want to root for him, you know that something has to happen to turn him into President Snow. Then we have Lucy Gray, our entertainer, and by the way, being a singer is a pretty big part of her character, and something that she and Corio definitely use to their favor to sort of promote her to sponsors and to the public in general. And here she is performing at the Hob. That's what it's called, right? I'm having like a moment, but I think it's the Hob. Yeah, she's singing, he's watching with a smitten smile, and that little girl in yellow making everybody dance is a little sweetheart Maud Ivory, who is part of Lucy Gray's musical troupe and kind of her chosen family, her found family. Back before the games, we see Lucy Gray being interviewed by Lucky, who says something so insensitive, basically saying she'll die. Like, how fun that we're here for your very last performance ever, because there is no way you're making it back from these games. I also want to point out the donations counter on the screen, because like I said before, that's a new addition to the games, and Lucy Gray and Coriolanus really try to capitalize on her natural performer abilities to get sponsors and favors from the crowd. And it works because she's kind of a natural. I mean, you can see the count there is pretty high and the games haven't even started yet. Then, oh my god, we see Lucky doing magic. He likes to do that while presenting the games. I guess he's a bit of a magician on the side. And is really a nice reminder of how callous the Capitol is. He is literally presenting teenagers dying and he's all excited about his magic tricks. Like, Tigress being the voice of reason. I love her compassion and how genuinely kind she is, in contrast to Coriolanus being a more self-serving person. She definitely gives him invaluable advice on how to approach Lucy Gray in the beginning, because she can kind of understand how Lucy Gray would be feeling. Yeah, it's very cute. Their relationship is very cute. My neon rainbow snakes! Yes! Snakes are my favorite animals, and I love neon colors, so I was really excited to see them, and I was gonna be so mad if they were like not neon or really muted colors or something, if they like screwed it up in any way, like the vision that I had in my head. But I like what I'm seeing. I do hope they'll be a little bit brighter when they're not in the vat, but I still really like, you can see how rainbowy they are. Amazing. And then oof, we have Corio and Clemencia standing over them with Dr. Gall handling a snake, and if you read the book, you know exactly what this scene is. No explanation needed. If not, all you need to know is that this is one of the most disturbing and sinister scenes in the entire book. Maybe the most disturbing one. And then cutting to my boy Sejanus. I've never been sure how to pronounce his name. I actually read the entire book calling Coriolanus in my head, and then I rewatched The Hunger Games and I realized it's Coriolanus. So I don't know if it's Sejanus like I've been calling it, or if it's the same deal and it's Sejanus. I don't know why there are so many names with the word anus in it. Was Suzanne Collins okay? I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Sejanus, so it's a little more different than Coriolanus. The point is that he is throwing a chair and he is yelling that everybody in the Capitol are monsters. I teared up. You can feel his emotions coming through so strongly. Sejanus is formerly from District 2. He moved to the Capitol because of how rich his dad got. So understandably, he has a lot of issues with the Hunger Games. He's basically the only person willing to truly stand up against it. There are other people who don't like it, but he's the only one who can kind of truly stand up against it, and he's right, but he does it often in misguided ways, like throwing this chair. I love him, but I was like constantly worried about his safety throughout the entire book. And then the trailer cutting from that scream to Dr. Gall laughing in an unhinged way. That was an editing masterpiece there. I think he's in the Citadel lab for this scene. There seem to be specimens in all the glass closets around him. Then we see some general peacekeeper training to get an idea of what Coriolanus is up to at that point. Saluting, drills, nothing jumped out to me as a big detail that needs to be discussed. And then I want to say this is from the book's epilogue. I can't be sure, but it just seems like it. His hair is different, his demeanor is different. I think he's back in the Capitol, and yeah, I'm pretty sure this isn't Coriolanus anymore. I'm pretty sure this is full-on Snow. Already like straight on his way to fully rise to power and become president. That's heartbreaking, because like I said before, you can't help but root for him, but you know it's pointless because he will become President Snow someday. The boy who still has goodness inside will change, and you want him to become better, but you know he will become worse, no matter how much you root for that to not happen. And that's why these villain origin stories are always so heartbreaking for me, because it's like it's fate. You know what the fate is, but it hurts. And our final two shots from the trailer are very interesting when put with the voiceover from adult President Snow in Mockingjay times. First we see Lucy Gray tenderly holding a snake and showing it to Maud Ivory. Although the title of the book makes it seem like she's the songbird, the free-spirited singer, and he's the snake, a symbolism which is already established in the Hunger Games with him poisoning people. She is actually the one that likes snakes and knows how to handle them and how to use them for her advantage. She's displaying that here, and Coriolanus is watching her, but he's not really smiling. He seems deep in thought. We know there's a romantic vibe between them because of the hand-holding scene and the scene of them in the water, but at the same time we're getting a voiceover about how it's the things we love most that destroy us. So what does that mean? Like, is that a bad omen? Knowing what we know of President Snow in the future, it kind of gives us the impression that this romance is doomed from the start. I'm not saying that this is necessarily what happens, it's the vibe that we
get. The end of the trailer definitely gives that vibe, in my opinion. Finally, I really need to point out that the first time I watched Mockingjay, way before Ballads was released, that snow line hit me hard. I don't think that's in the book, right? I think it's just in the movie. I remember watching the movie and really thinking like, wow, it sounds like he's speaking from personal experience. It sounds like he's been through something in love. It immediately made his character more compelling to me. 10 years later, Ballad came out. Then I rewatched the trilogy and oh my god, it hit so differently. I hadn't finished yet, but like my heart dropped when I got to the line, and I kept thinking about it for the rest of the book. I just kept thinking, at some point this is gonna go even worse than what I was already thinking, because he's saying that what you love is what destroys you. So does he destroy her? Does she destroy him? What the hell's gonna happen here? So I am floored that they actually used it to end the trailer. I think it's the perfect choice. I was all ready to be like, oh, I'm so brilliant, I made this connection between Mockingjay and Ballad, and then they made it so obvious by putting it in the trailer that like I can't brag about that at all. I am glad to have been right in the sense that you definitely can make a connection between those.
So that's about it for the trailer. It broke me, it made me tear up when I watched it for the first time. It totally shook me, and I'm very hopeful that it will be a good adaptation. I do love Coriolanus and Lucy Gray as characters, as well as some other characters in the book, and I feel like they really deserve a great depiction on screen too. The only thing I'm hoping to see a little bit more that was not shown in the trailer at all is the effects of the war on the Capitol, like how that affected the citizens. And I'm hoping that Lysistrata and Festus, who are two of Coriolanus' school friends, get to shine a little bit in the movie too, because I really thought that they were fun in the book. Please don't sleep on this book. I think you all should read it before it comes out in November, because it's always better to read the book first if you want to read it at some point. Thanks for watching. Please give it a like and consider subscribing, because someday I'll probably make a video essay on why well-intentioned teen Coriolanus became the horrible President Snow, and that might be fun to watch. Thanks guys!